Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Reality Kingdom, where we talk all things reality TV or whatever.
Aww.
I'm your host, Sparrow. I'm joined by our wonderful co-host, Lee. How y'all doing?
We doing good. You know, it's always a good day when we're talking about Big Brother 23, the best modern day season of the show.
Mm-hmm. Period. As you see by the title, we're going to be rating the players of Big Brother 23 or whatever. We're going to be getting into their games, giving them a rating, and then putting them in order, and you're going to see all the big shebang and all of that or whatever. So, without further ado, let's get to weekend 2. What? Oh, this is a lot. See how much I got to do? Okay, boom. Boom. Boom.
Back. Let that shit go, boom.
Watch it.
Pick out. Okay.
Boom. This is the Big Brother 23 cast. This is the winner on the left, and then we got the loser. That's bad. You know, it goes in order. So we're going to go ahead and just start it off. And we're going to go from Travis to Xavier, and we're going to rate them one by one and talk about their games. You get the tea. So Lee, how do you feel about Travis as an overall Big Brother player?
So, unfortunately with Travis, we really didn't get to see much of him. What we know about his story is that Frenchie promised him safety on, day 1, hour 2 of the season. He was one of the first people he promised safety out of the whole entire cast that week. And we also know that due to him being in the Queen's team with Miss Mother Tiffany, Claire, and Kyland, he was brought into the Firefighter Alliance with DX. That was kind of a week 1 alliance that could have become something if he stayed. However, one thing I noticed about Travis, and I feel like one thing I noticed about several of the Caucasian players in a post POC world, is that a lot of them are starting to retreat a bit. I felt like Travis, he didn't really have anywhere to go. You know, they would even talk about in the house how it feels like they casted me and Christian to be friends, but we're not friends. And then Travis would not speak to anyone else. I feel like Christian, on the other hand, had a very good social game, whereas a player like Travis and then a little bit of Brent, it was a lot of retreatment going on. And I feel like that's because in any other season of Big Brother, he probably would have several people in the season that were just like him and could relate to him. You know, a good old Texas boy, Aggie. We weren't Aggie, but UT, you know, and then, you know, he definitely fits the mold of someone who could go really far in this game. It was hilarious when he got eliminated because he tried to say, you know, the big guy always gets target first. And what season did he watch? But anyways, so I don't know. I think I have to settle at like a 4 for Travis. I feel like he at least tried. One of the best things I saw about him in the game was when he literally held the whole "you said you wouldn't keep me safe" thing over his head. He tried to use it to his advantage. I do feel like if he had stayed that first week, he honestly could have made it pretty further. I don't think he would have been necessarily a target by anyone for a while. However, with the cookout strategy, you never know. If Mother Tiffany wanted him out, he would have been out. So you never really know. But I'm going to leave it at a 4 because we really just didn't see much at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree with a lot that you said, honestly. And when it comes to like rating the players, I feel like unless you're just doing trash, bad, as these next couple people are doing, then I don't really want to rate you like, you know, too low because you didn't do much. I also noticed, as I've rated every single player in Big Brother history, that the first boots, it's really hard to give them a rating because the reason they go home is never necessarily something they did. Well, sometimes it is. But a lot of the times, like Travis's time, it wasn't necessarily something Travis did. All Travis did was breathe, and Frenchie was like, "Whoa, he wants to be a powerhouse." Like, he really didn't do much. And that's the thing. Travis did make a close connection with Derek X week 1, and they were friends. So he did have the ability to make close connections. He did have like this alliance that was kind of forming. So Travis had something. He actually tried to stay. He tried to get Frenchie not to nominate him. He tried to get the votes vaguely. So he did like the ABC things that he could have did. The only thing is that he didn't have a phenomenal social game, and that's important for week 1. If you can't even do that, then it's not a lot that you know. It's not enough for me to give him such a high rating, even though he was the first one out. So I'm gonna just give him a 4.2, and we just gonna leave it at that, Bookie.
Honestly, it's like, because I'm trying to remember that first week. I know it was chaotic as hell because Frenchie was the HOH, as we all remember. Who child? But it sucks because Travis was like the 6th target that week. It started off as what? It started off as Christian, then it went to Alyssa, then it went to Kyland, then it went to DX. No, it went to DX, then Kyland, and then Travis.
So, and Brent was somewhere in there.
Brent was in there too, so he was 6. imagine, and then let's think other people were safe and things like that. Like, Travis kind of got fucked because Frenchie is crazy. But we're definitely going to get into that because he's next.
Unfortunately, well, I wouldn't say unfortunately, but Frenchie is a little bit an interesting case because
a basket case, if you will.
If you may, he definitely does not possess the qualities needed in order to suffice a score that is relevant about diving into. But what he does suffice is a 0. So that's where I'm gonna keep him at.
0, Pharaoh. Okay.
Next.
I'm gonna give him a 0.5. The point 5, at least he won an HOH. He did something, I guess. I don't know. Like, I know everyone who watched BB23, we all remember week 1 so vividly. And I remember when he won, I'm thinking like, okay, great, the niggas is safe because Azah and Big D was on his team. I was feeling good. He came in saying, I'm not nominating no niggas. I'm not nominating no women. I was living good. No old people. I was eating, okay? And then what did he do?
Everything was alive.
Everything was alive.
Why was everything alive? Y'all, this man, no, we got to get into it. This evil man, he's evil. This man went around. Mind you, no one asked. He, out of the gumption of his soul, went around to every colored,
every woman. He would see him in passing. Like, if you are brown and you walk past Frenchie, hey, I'm not putting up no niggas. You know that, right?
You're right.
Okay.
Right.
Every woman, like, I mean, well.
Alyssa literally, it's day 1. Alyssa in the bathroom, minding her whoopty business.
Crying.
She's sick as shit. She minding her business, dying, throwing up sick. Here come Frenchie. You know I'm not putting you up right.
And like, oh, well, let's go up the next day. Like, it's insane. We can't even really deep dive into how crazy Frenchie is. Like, one of the weirdest moments of his first HOH was when, remember he created that all-girls alliance? And then he literally went to go snitch on it in the next minute. I was like, this man is insane. He has to go. I was so scared for Tiffany because she was working too closely for that man for me. It was when she threw that rogue vote for him in week 1, I was like, Tiffany, girl, you need to abandon ship. And she did exactly that and got Kyland to get that man up out of here. He needs to go.
She ate him up because after the vote, Frenchie walking around. Yeah, I know who was the votes, but I'm just not gonna say nothing.
And then here comes Tiffany. Oh, you know who the vote is? I mean, I just don't understand why you walk around here saying you know who the vote is, and you're not gonna say who it is.
I would just prefer you just not say anything at all.
And mind you, I'm thinking, Tiffany, girl, don't do that. He shook. He like, you know what?
And didn't say a word.
And the craziest thing is, Frenchie 100% went home because of Tiffany, because Kyle didn't even want Frenchie to go. And at the end of the week, the only person he said he trusted was Tiffany Mitchell. That's just a preview. We're going to give my sister. Just let that sink in.
So how you feel about Brent, girl?
So honestly, Brent is a really, really interesting character because, when we start off the week, the season, and Frenchie's HOH, Brent was the initial target, and then after one conversation with Frenchie did the entire 180, and he was kind of running Frenchie. And you just heard us talk about Frenchie. Clearly, running Frenchie is not a feat. It's not like the biggest thing in the world. But in that moment, in the slaughterhouse structure, which could have been the majority alliance of the season, if Mother Mitchell didn't take control, he could have been a real threat. It would have been bad for us, y'all. Real bad. So thank God Xavier won in week 3. And, Tiffany wanted him out, so Brent was going to go. And I think this is what makes Brent such a bad player. And I think I'm going to have to honestly give him a 3. Is because the group unison and wanting Brent out was insane. I've never seen such cooperation in my life. Like, it was like a military base in that thing. The girls was lying to him. Hannah, Whitney, and DX, his own team members, through the HOH just so he can go home. Do you know how insane that is? They gave up immunity to watch that man go home. That's just how much he made those people hate him. And you can't be that hated in this house. And it's crazy because, literally, like I said, they would just straight line to him the whole entire week. Xavier would be like, am I a target? He'll ask Xavier, am I a target? And Xavier would be like, nah, bro, you're not a target. And he'd be like, I know I'm a target, man. I'm not pawn material. Like, I am definitely the target. And Xavier would be like, no, He's a pawn. Yeah. And then he would go to Tiffany and be like, I mean, he think I'm the pawn, but we eating this because he made this a lot. What was the Mafia with the Queens team? It was the Aces and the Queens, the Mafia. So he thought the entire week that he had to vote the whole time. Like I said, everybody is lying to this man. It was real bad.
It was real bad for Elmo. And that's the issue because honestly, going into this, I was like, well, Brent low-key, he low-key ran Frenchie a little bit. He made Frenchie do, but like you said, what does that mean? Not much. And then I was thinking, well, he was strategic. He knew he wasn't the pawn with the whoop. But honestly, when you add in the factor that no one liked him, you just got to bring him down. And I feel bad because it's not like he's just not likable, And it's not his fault. It kind of is his fault. It's 3. Yeah. You ate him up. You said everything that needed to be said. I don't know what to tell you. I hate to say it. I definitely think he has like an ABC caliber of understanding the game, but none of that matters when you're that disliked. Like Lee said, the house was in unison, boo. Like, that does not happen.
I need a soldier.
That ain't been a setup for me. They were like lined up, ready. Like, everybody put in an effort to get him out. Every single player helped. They was like, we gonna throw the HOH. We're gonna. Not only did they throw the HOH, they threw the safety comp. What the fuck is it called? The wild card, just to ensure it doesn't accidentally allow him to be safe too. Like that. A 3, I fear. Anyways, let's move on to Whitney. Now, Whitney is also another rare case because BB23 was the first season where there were colors. This was the first season. I don't know how to say it. Big Brother 23 is the first season that enacted the BIPOC rule, which means that these typical players who might have typically in another season done very well and gotten very far off of pure
privilege,
do not have that same luxury. And Whitney is one of the casualties to that, I feel. I do feel like if Whitney was in BB21 where they were racist, that she would have done fine. But she wasn't, unfortunately. But unfortunately, she was in a season where black was right. Not white, So no, I'm playing y'all. No, but that as unfortunately, she was in a season where it was a more equal playing field for all archetypes. So with that being said, Whitney had to actually rely on playing the game, and unfortunately, she was just not that girl. I will say Whitney had some ABC caliber level gameplay. She did try to form a Final Four with Alyssa and Christian right before Christian won HOH. She also had strategic talks with Hannah and with DX about what they needed to do. She said she did want to work with the girls. She had plans and she had thoughts. She was brought into the slaughterhouse, but that's a part that was low-key privilege too. But she did have certain things throughout her game that showed that she had the caliber to do something. But other than that, there was no going anywhere for her. I will say she got the target of Tiffany, and having the target of Tiffany on your back is like
you might as well pack your bags and left.
Like, as soon as Tiffany uttered that girl name,
it was it's over.
She was working from baby underneath the ground, boo. She had to dig herself.
Talk about an uphill battle, girl.
So it was never gonna happen. She was never gonna succeed. But I do think because she had those ABC qualities, I'll give her a 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I can settle on a 4 for Whitney as well. I feel like Whitney. I feel like Whitney did have basic level strategic sense. I think her main issue is that she never enacted it. One of the things she was so for doing is being for the women. She wanted an all-girls alliance. She wanted all the girls to sit together. And the whole time, the girls thought she was obsessed with the men because all she would do was lotion down Xavier and Kyland. Like, no, it wasn't giving that you wanted to work with the women. Like, if that's the case, where's all the foot massages? Where is Tiffany's leg rubs? I mean, I'm not getting no lotion. So I really think that was her issue. No one going into Big Brother, if you're in week 2, 3, 4, and you're not in an alliance, something is wrong. And she definitely didn't realize that it was too late until it was very much too late. I will give Whitney credit because I feel like out of every time, that was the one week where the cookout struggled the most because it was hard to get the target off Whitney. Once the target got off Hannah, once the target was on the aces, and they wanted to put up Whitney and Hannah. There was no way at first that Hannah was not going to go home. So, because Whitney was putting in work, she had a relationship with Christian and Alyssa. She had a relationship with people in the house that wanted to keep her, like Britini. So, it wasn't just a non-zero chance. Like, the cookout actually had to put in work that week to save the alliance because of work that Whitney low-key put in. So, I do feel like she deserves credit for that. But overall, it wasn't given. And she, like Pharaoh said, once Tiffany uttered her name, it was done for Miss Mamas.
I'm so sorry. Oh God. Okay, so I want to preface the rest of this ranking with this message. I just want to let the girls know that this season of Big Brother really created a new era of Big Brother where I feel like the caliber of gameplay is above average. So these rankings, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to be above average. I really think that the strategy in this game, I think the gameplay in this game, even though the cookout dominated, the gameplay overall still was a higher caliber than the previous seasons that we've had in Big Brother because the casting changed. It did. We can clearly see that. The casting changed, the decision-making changed. They got way more fans. There's way more diversity. So the caliber of gameplay just went up in general. So when we go to these next couple of people, well, the rest of the cast, the ratings might be a number that you might be like, what? And I'm just letting y'all know right now, we're going to rate the girls how we feel see fit, period. With that being said, let's get into Chris. I think Christian, as a player, as an overall player, I think he's decent because he has such a strong competition ability. This man can literally win any competition in the world. And with that being said, it really puts him above literally everybody below. Like, it puts him already at like a 5, honestly, at like a 4, just because he can win so many competitions and he can do so many things. Now, I will say Christian does lack a strategic bone. I feel a strategic backbone. I feel like he does need a lot of guidance when it comes to things. Even when it comes to Tiffany, we just stay missing in the Queen child. Even when it comes to Tiffany convincing him to be in the new alliance, the Royal Flush, I feel like that was him being guided towards a direction that's going to help somebody else's game. Love it for him, but it didn't work out for him, boo. But so, it's like he definitely needs like help in the strategic department, but socially he's amazing. Physically he's amazing. So you get 2 out of 3. Maybe the third ones might be the most important, but you get 2 out of 3. So I feel like it would be wrong for me to give him anything below a 5. I think I will settle at the 5 because the strategic is just not there. So I'm gonna give him a 5 and move along.
Yeah, I think I also have to agree with the 5 on Christian, only because it's like you mentioned, like strategically, it's just not there at all. Like watching those feeds and seeing him like go to his entire team during his HOH week, he couldn't make a decision on his own. His entire team had to be in the room for the entire week, damn near. It was kind of sad. It really was. Like, kudos to Hannah for convincing him to get the target off of her. But how the hell was she able to do that in one conversation? Like, that just shows how quick the mind can change, okay? Mm-hmm. And then also, like, I think what was just really disappointing in the Christian's game was the week he did win HOH, because he did want to target DX. That was something that he felt like that was a move that he needed to make. And because his showman, Miss Alyssa, was like, well, I don't think you should do that. I think you should try to make a relationship with him. Let's work with him. That really came back to bite him in the ass. Like, and that's because he didn't listen to himself. I feel like if Christian were to merge a more strategic game with his great social game, he would be unstoppable. I feel like he could still become a target, but at the end of the day, if he's winning the comps and he's moving the house around strategically, it won't be a problem. Like, the main reason why he went home, like, he was always bound to go home because he was never moving anything on his own. He moved no pieces at all. And I mean, you just clearly can't reward that. But I do think a 5 is a good number because I feel like he can only go up. Like, I don't think there were a lot of bad qualities in Christian. It's just the guidance thing. Like, he's going to have to, if he would ever play again, I would love to see him, like, step out in front and really run shit. Because I think he could honestly get really far doing that.
And that's the thing. A lot of people try to mention the age when they're, like, 21 or when they're 22 or below. But honestly, he was, 24 in the house? 24 still, I'm 23. And I know that I'm not at the extreme caliber that I need to be of growth. Like, I'm not fully grown. It's usually people who are in their late 20s, 27, 28, or early 30s who really run this game because you still are developing things. Christian was still young in that house. So when it comes to, having the confidence to really take control and push somebody around and, do strategy, that's still something that he has to learn over time. But I do want to say when it comes to his social game, we not capping on him. Christian, being the huge ass threat that he was, still almost stayed because Tiffany was like, I just like him so much. Literally, Big D and Azah, and Brittany, they literally were talking. They was like, low key Christian could stay. Big D wanted Christian to stay. Brittany wanted Christian to stay. Tiffany wanted Christian to stay. Claire wanted Christian to stay. Damn near everybody, the votes were there for him to stay, and they decided out of the kindness of their heart that they would allow for him to go. And that was it. He really could have stayed in another situation. Maybe if the cookout wasn't priority, maybe if Derek X wasn't also a good player. There were a lot of factors that went into him not having that vote be flipped, but it was very close for him to be such a big threat, for him to have won every competition he played in at that point. For the vote to still be about to flip, that shows that his social game is very amazing. And I do think that the 5 is deserved. It honestly could be just a little bit higher if he just wasn't so, guided in his strategic factor, But I'll leave it there. Next is Brat or whatever. How you feel about Brat?
Honestly, I'm pretty low on Brat. I'm not gonna lie, child.
You're a hater, child.
I just feel like Brittany. There just was not much to Brittany's game. She was used as a pawn throughout pre-jury, and then it's just when jury hit, it was like, well, she was bound to go home at some point due to the cookout structure. Like Brittany wasn't really able to form any alliances of her own. No one really took her seriously. I do think one of the shining moments in her game was winning that veto because she definitely proved that I can be here, I can play this game, I can win competitions. I'm not someone you can just put up. That was really good for her, but at the same time, she still got put up and then she still got sent home. So that it just really sucked. I think Brittany is a great person. I think she's a bundle of joy. I would love to be around her, but Big Brother, I do not want to see her in that house again. Honestly, for her mental health, I don't think it was a good environment for her either. I don't think she should be in this game. I think the Big Brother, at least that I want to see, is a low down, dirty, lying, backstabbing game. Brittany don't need to be in this house with that. If Brittany comes back, I would need her to be a little bit more cutthroat because I think that was her thing she was lacking. I think it's okay to be an emotional player, but I think with Brittany, it's just everything was very. I think she put herself so deep into everything that was happening to her, and it just really started to affect her personally. And I think that's not. You can't let the game get to you that personally because at the end of the day, it is a game. So yeah, I think I gotta go with a 3 with Brittany. It was just it's just the performance. It was. I'm sorry. If there's any Brittany fans out there, I'm sorry. Like I said, I love Brittany down as a person. I just think Big Brother is not for her. There are a lot of people who are like that though.
A 3, you playing in her face.
So
I won't be doing that. I won't be playing in Brittany's face. I do think Brittany has a higher caliber of gameplay than some people might give her credit for because I did notice throughout the game that Brittany had a sense of the game. She knew what the game was. She knew how to play the game. Even when she was being put up as a pawn, she was sad. She was emotional about it. But she very much so, after the second time, she literally admitted, she's like, okay, I need to play my role. If this is the role I need to play, I need to either refuse it and tell everybody I'm not trying to be a pawn, which she did that. And she also accepted it in a way, because in a way she was like, when Xavier? When one of these people asked her to be a pawn, she was like, okay, I'll be a pawn. I'll do what I have to do this week. I'm safe. They're like, you're safe. She's like, all right, if I'm safe, I'll accept this. I think she learned, even though it was still an emotional decision for her, she learned how to play the game. I feel like a little bit better than a lot of these other people did. She wasn't bad socially, despite her having, social disconnect sometimes. She still wasn't bad socially. A lot of people did like Brittany. Azah and Big D was bodyguarding her from other players. Tiffany was trying to talk to her and use Brittany to her advantage because Brittany is advantageous to the game. Brittany does have worth, and I think that's something that she showed that a lot of other people, I feel like, who would be a 3 or lower or in that caliber just don't have. They don't have that potential to ever be considered anything in the game, and I can't say the same about Brittany. When they were trying to flip the vote on Christian, Brittany would have been a part of that vital decision, and that could have happened in a certain situation. Brittany also did try to make alliances. She had a final 2 brewing with Christian. She did have alliances with Tiffany, with the Girls Alliance. So Brittany had a game. She had something. She also did win a competition. That's another thing that I feel like raises her above some other people. And I just feel like in general, she has something about her that's likable, something about her that's rootable for. And I feel like even people in the house see that. And that's why she didn't just go home. That's why she was a pawn and not the target. You know, she was never the target. She was never someone who got the Tiffany napalm child. And also, even the week she went home, that wasn't, for example, Tiffany was running the game. Let's be real. And if Tiffany got what she wanted that round, that would have been Sarah Beth. So that means Britini would have made it even farther in a certain situation if the right person won HOH. And you know, these HOHs sometimes come down to luck. So I'm just saying, I do think Britini has a little bit of savviness to her. I feel like she has a little bit of potential and a little bit of, you know, social game to bring her up there. So I'm gonna give Britini a 5. Me personally.
Oh no! It's just I just want to defend my point again one more time, because I think one thing that you kept mentioning in what you were saying is that she can be used, and that she is advantageous to be used. The reason why she wasn't the target is because she was the perfect pawn, someone that they can use to put on the block and not go home. The reason why they were going to use her to vote to keep Christian, because she was someone they could use. They wanted to bring her in and use her. They didn't want to work with her. They wanted to use her. And that's the problem. She was never in a position that she was ever going to be respected as a player in the game. And I think, like I said, it's not a problem that she's an emotional player, because there are other emotional players who play this game. I think Azah can be seen as an emotional player, but Azah still had a game sense to where people wanted to work with her, not just use her as a vote or use her as a pawn. And in Big Brother, if you're being pawned and just someone we can get her vote, or we could, that's not a good position to be in. Is my point.
But I feel like as a general player, it's not necessarily always going to be that way. Azah and Big D did want to work with Britini. If they could choose, if they weren't in this situation, they would have worked with her. When Tiffany was using her, Tiffany uses people, but she also actually genuinely likes these people. She genuinely does want to work with these people. Christian talked about it all the time. He's like, I don't want to nom Britini as a pawn because I genuinely want to work with Britini. I see what you're saying, but I don't think it necessarily applies to Britini. I also don't think Britini would have had a lack of respect in the game if she made it even farther. I feel like from where she was at, it was building up. It was building up when she won her veto. I do think she gained respect in the house. I do think people in the house started taking her a little bit more seriously. And I think if she would have made it farther, people would have been like, Britini's still here. She's playing this game. She's doing what she has to do. I don't necessarily fully agree, but that's okay. Well, see, child, he a hater. Britini stands attack, period.
Oh my God.
Next, we have Daddy DX. First of all, other than being fine as fuck, Derek X definitely has a lot of good qualities. I feel like a lot of people try to hate on his game just because he's a likable character or because America likes him. They try to be contrarians or whatever. But in reality, Derek X is just a good player. I don't know what to tell you. Even coming in, not knowing much about the game, he had not even that slow of a start, but he had a rocky start because Frenchie is insane. And even with that rocky start, he was able to catapult himself into a tremendous position with his social game, with his even a part of it was his strategic game. The decisions he made strategically helped him get to that position too. Derek X has a above average strategic sense. I feel a lot of the times you could tell throughout the season, even in the edited version of the show and on the feeds, you can tell that he was making decisions to further his personal game every single time. All the way back to, first of all, the first week when Frenchie was like, maybe you shouldn't use the veto on Kyland because I don't want you to. DX was like, well, baby, I got the veto now, so I'm going to do what's best for my game. And that means that Kyland needs to stay safe, period.
Oh, man.
So it's like he was, from the get-go, he was always very self-interested, and that's something that really takes you far in this game. And he was an active player. He was actively trying to save Whitney and Hannah the week they were both nominated. He was shook by it, but he was actively trying to save them. He actively took out Christian, even though Christian was in the Royal Flush. He also had very good connections going after that. He had his alliance with Kyland, Hannah, and what the fuck was that alliance called?
Tiffany, the detectives.
The detectives. He had the detectives. And he was in a good position with that, and he was great at competition. So honestly, a lot of the things just point to Derek X being a really, really good player. Honestly, it's hard for me to not give him. Hold up. What you think?
So I'm gonna just say my thing, and I also want to preface this too, because now we're getting into the jury phase of the game. Like, these are the people who were, the pawns of the cookout, the people who were really you girl gonna say it. But and DX kind of falls in that, and I feel like you really have to judge him on these players going up on the potential of their game without a cookout structure, because you have to realize too, like, these people are being backstabbed by their closest allies in this game. You know, the week DX went home, it was at the hands of Tiffany, Hannah, and Kyland, the three people he probably trusted the most out of everyone in that season. So I feel like you can't sit up here and say he's a bad player for putting his trust in people that in any other situation would have definitely trusted him as much as he trusted them, you know? So I want to start off by saying that. I agree with all of the things you're saying. I think that Derek is a really great player. The connections he had in that game, people loved that boy. When he had to go home, the girls were ready to slit their throats, and I was right there with them. Like, the type of attachments he was able to gain with people, like, that's not easy to do. And I feel like you have to put some respect on that. He was great at competition, and he knew when to make moves when he needed to. I feel like in a cookout structure, it was not good that he got out Christian, but without that structure, that was the biggest move. That was one of the biggest moves of the season. It was also a pivotal move, and it put him in a really great position moving forward without a cookout structure. I think that's really the only thing that messes him up. He had to go because they needed him out. Like, literally, it wasn't even the plan until the BB Bucks started, and they were like, oh, well, shit, well, now you're going to get 100 BB Bucks a week. So he really got to go then. There were a lot of things working against him as a player, and I feel like if those forces weren't there, which they probably wouldn't be in several other seasons, he can make it really far. I like what you mentioned about him being self-interested. Like, one of the things that he did was his closest to Hannah. I feel like he was definitely loyal to Hannah and would have for sure took her to the final two. And I feel like that would have been the best thing for him because he could have potentially beat Hannah, and Hannah was loyal to him. It like he already had an end game to where he probably was good either way because Kyland would have wanted to take him, Hannah probably would have wanted to take him. You never really know. So I do feel like, honestly, without a cookout structure, he probably wins the game. So I'm gonna give him a 7, point blank period.
Oof, I don't know about the win the game part.
DX would definitely have won the game. Literally, the week he went home, he literally, the Sarah Beth week, he lost by like a second. Like, he literally would not have went home in that situation. And like I said, you have to be realistic. Like this is like Hannah and Kyland and Tiffany backstabbing him as like his family. In that game, the only people who you're close to are the people you really trust. Like, so those were like his brothers and sisters backstabbing him. Is my thing. Is the point I'm trying to get across. Like, it's not like he was just up in the air, confused. Even when the stuff started making sense, the Matrix started glitching on his ass. He was having conversations like the things are not making sense. The dots are not adding up. I feel like if this was a season where it wasn't a secret alliance, everything was on the table like it usually is, he would have been able to align his cards up to win. I honestly think so.
I can agree with that statement, but I can't agree with the he definitely would have won statement. But I can agree with the statement that he had a good potential to win if there was not a cookout structure in place. And just to be clear, because we keep saying this, but I know that some people don't necessarily fully understand this. So I'm going to break it down and be really clear. The cookout was an agreement based on things outside of the game that they decided to bring into the game, and that was the reason they stuck together. So when we say that without a cookout structure, you can't necessarily argue that but that was the alliance. Because this alliance is a special alliance. This alliance was based around things that Derek X had no control over, and neither member within the alliance had any control over. No one had control over this. This alliance was made out of outside scenarios that made it important for this alliance to happen. Too important to give a fuck about Derek X. So when we say without this structure, Derek X had a chance, it's because they had to put the cause above their feelings for Derek X, which were very strong, which they probably would not have done had the cause not needed to be made. Period.
I just think realistically, looking at this jury, I could have saw without a cookout structure, Big D, Sarah Beth, Xavier all being out before him, which would have put him like in top 6. He could have won his way out at that point. All the competitions were geared for him, mental / like a physical type. Like, he really could have beasted out, is what I'm saying.
He's definitely giving. He could have made it far, and then Hannah would have won HOH and took him out. That's what I see.
And that would have been nasty.
The world
that's
I
really
see.
The gag. He would have took Hannah to the final 3 with him. And Hannah would have won that final HOH and cut him down.
But no, I do fully get what you're saying. And I agree that he is a monster of a player. I think he's a great player. I think he's one of the best this season. And I do think that there's a high chance that he could have stayed. He could have won the season had, like you said, the cookout structure not had to be enacted. But however, I do feel like there were little its and pieces to his game that were a little bit flawed. For example, yes, Hannah could have been loyal to him, but I do think the people he trusted the most are all backstabbers. You could argue that Hannah, Tiffany, and Kyland are just backstabbers in general. I do feel like Tiffany's pretty loyal, but Hannah, I don't even think Hannah in a non-cookout season would be loyal. I don't think Kyland in a non-cookout season would necessarily be loyal. The way he was using Sarah Beth. I do feel like these are ruthless players. Like Kyland, he kind of didn't want to win. Tiffany is kind of loyal, but I can see a world where Hannah dupes the fuck out of Derek X, because Derek X underestimated Hannah, to be honest. So there's just it's a bits and pieces about the season that I feel like Derek X should have been a little bit more privy to. Not too much though, which is why I'm gonna rate him a 7-2. I came in this at like a 6.5, but honestly, I'm gonna rate him a 7-2. I do feel like he's a great player. I feel like he has a lot of great qualities. I just feel like he's very strategic, but I feel like there's just certain things. There's certain cues, there's certain situations that could mess him up, even in this season without a cookout. Because even without a cookout, there's a chance if he does go to end with Hannah, Tiffany, Kyland himself, Hannah, Tiffany, Kyland can be like, well, we could get a black winner. And that's not the same as the cookout all 6 working together and we all 6 make it to the end. Even in that situation, I feel like there's certain things Derek X should be a little bit more aware of. He just has a slight lesser level of like, I feel full awareness of what's actually going on. Like, and that's the only thing. That's the only thing, because it wasn't just applying to that. It wasn't just because of the cookout. The cookout was hard to see. There were other things within the game that I feel like Derek X could have slipped up and missed or not even cared. Even when he was HOH and he was willing and he was talking shit about Sarah Beth and whoop and putting her up. I feel like if Kyland was really loyal to Sarah Beth, which he did not have confirmation on, Kyland only wasn't loyal to her because of the cookout. If he was, him doing that could have jarred him and Kyland's relationship. And I feel like he was negligent about that. I just wanted to give an example. So there are certain things, but a 7 is that. Now we're on the Queen Sarah Beth, Ice Queen, period. You bitches on Twitter talking about Ice Queen Angela, Ice Queen, whoop the whoop. No, the real true Ice Queen is Sarah Beth, the queen of not caring, period. Now, when it comes to Sarah Beth's game, I feel like it's like Jekyll and Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde. Dr. Hyde and Mr. Jekyll? Dr. Jekyll and Hyde? It's Two-Face. It's black on this. She has layers. Ogres have layers, and she has layers. She's not an ogre. But I was just saying. So, Sarah Beth, I feel you get like one side of her sometimes, which is a very strategic, very smart player. When it came to dismantling the slaughterhouse, she did have a lot of implementation with that. Her making her final 2 with Kyland was very smart because he was a powerhouse in this game. And I think she knew he could win comps and stuff, and she knew he was likable. She used him to a certain extent until he started flipping that shit around on her. Her having that girls alliance, her being able to be brought into that girls alliance was good. So I think she has very subtle, good strategic qualities that brings her, up as a player. But she also has like a flip side to her where she's kind of just there. And there's weeks where she's just there. And I feel like those weeks, I think she thinks it's strategy. I think she thinks it's smart, but I don't think it is. I think that really brings her game down because she can go really, really hard like she was going against Hannah. And then the next week she's trying to sit there and you can't do that. You're going to turn it on. First of all, you should never turn it on that high at fucking week 4. You see how many people are left? And then if you do that, you need to keep it on for at least a few more weeks because, babe, now you're going to have a target, how you did. So I feel like she just made a lot of, like, mistakes here and there, which is why it's kind of hard for me to rate her. Yeah, go.
So this is what I'll say about Sarah Beth. And I think what I love about Sarah Beth initially is that she's a really cutthroat player. Like, we all know the week when Derek X kind of brought her in the room after he just nominated her and Britini. And they're confused because Sarah Beth and DX, they're both in the royal flush. Like, he didn't tell the Kings that he was doing this. She is shut down. And she goes in the room and she's like, so what's going on? Like, what's tea? Like, I'm confused. Like, why are you doing this? And he's like, I mean, what if I wanted to make a bigger move? And she's like, a bigger move? Like, what's Tia? Like, what's like, come on. And he was like, I mean, and basically they got down to it saying Christian. And she was like, oh, well, girl, you should have told me that yesterday because, so she was already down with the plan immediately after she found out. And I feel like that type of gameplay, the ability to just switch it like that, like, okay, you could be my ally this minute, but if I got to stay, then you can go. I love that cutthroat, gritty gameplay. It does remind me of a Nicole Franzel-esque type of game, but I think that is also the negative thing about her game is because that gameplay is only going to take you so far, and it's not going to be something that gets you respect in the game, and be able to win. I feel like she got a lot of comparisons to Nicole, but I think socially she wasn't that good because one thing about Nicole, she stayed in the girls' faces that she was working with consistently. Sarah Beth, like Farrell mentioned, like she took a back seat, and she did feel like she said to the cameras, after the Hannah situation happened and Whitney got solidified as a target, she kind of was like, well, I'm just gonna sit back, relax, cool, it's good, we Gucci. And she basically started talking to everybody. She lost all her allies. She just sat and got cut up with Kyland all day. It made no sense. And another bad thing about Sarah Beth is that her HOH, what made it so stupid, the move of getting out DX, is because not only was she being played by the cookout, but she was also being played by the relationships that were just in the game. Whether the cookout structure was there or not, getting out DX made no sense for her game regardless. And that was even back in the Royal Flush. The reason why she thought she could sit back and chill was because she thought the Royal Flush was the real power structure. If the cookout didn't exist, it wouldn't have been the Royal Flush. It would have been the detective. So either way, she was getting played, and she didn't keep it at all. And I think that is just really what the bad thing about her game was. She was just very, very unaware, to where I can see why on her HOH Colin was able to run it, because when you look at the grand scheme of things, did she know what the hell was going on? Tiffany was around here, had a target on her back since week 4, and she on her week talking about I love Tiffany. I don't want to target her. Tiffany makes me feel like whole time Tiffany been running your name to the mud and got the biggest target on your ass. So I think those mistakes you can't ignore, and I think that's why I have to settle on a 5.5 for Sarah Beth. I think if Sarah Beth comes back, what she would need to do to improve her game is just be a little bit more consistently aggressive. Like the week where she kind of went in on trying to get Hannah out, I don't think she should be that energy, but she needs to keep it up a bit. Like I said, Nicole F., when she plays the game, she doesn't stop talking to people. She's always talking to people. In fact, even the people she don't like, she'll sit and talk and giggle and Kiki and Davon's face and still vote her out and lie on her face next week and say Ian did it. Like she don't like Sarah Beth. Like she has that cutthroat, but she doesn't have the social game to smile and be your bestie and build this relationship with. And I think that's what she was lacking in.
Yeah, I definitely think the issue comes from her lack of social game, honestly. But other than that, I do think she is above average as a player. So I'll do a 5.5 also. She definitely has a lot of potential. I feel like when she was playing strategically, it was good. And I'm not necessarily not a fan of her going hard for Hannah, because in her mind, Hannah was the only person in the game that she didn't have control over, because she thought, which is the issue, because she thought she had the Jokers on lock. She thought she had the Kings on lock, and she thought she had a great relationship with Kyland and Tiffany, separately, which basically gave her the Queens. So she really thought she was in lock on everybody except Hannah. So I don't mind her going aggressively for that goal, because in her mind, that's the one person she needs to get out to sail to the end. But that just wasn't true. So that's the issue. It got to be a 5.5.
Queen Clark.
Claire.
So,
you know
the girls be trying to hate on my sister Claire. Personally, I love Claire. I think Claire is at least a 6. Go ahead and put it on there, because I feel like we really analyzed Claire's game in the earlier weeks. I think a lot of people made the comment, "Oh, well, she's just being ran by Tiffany," and I'm not gonna lie. I think towards the end that was something that I think she allowed Tiffany to do. I don't think it was necessarily she was being ran. I think she allowed Tiffany to be in that position, because earlier on, Claire realized that Tiffany is running things. As long as I stick close to Tiffany, she's going to get me far. And I think it's a strategy that you can look down on, but it's not a strategy that you can knock, because at the end of the day, it can be a winning strategy. Earlier in the earlier weeks, she spoke about how, honestly, if I get to the end with Tiffany, I can cut her and just win the game. And it wasn't a non-zero chance that would have been possible, because we all know Mother Tiffany would have definitely been in that final 3 with whoever she wanted to be there. And, it definitely probably would have been Claire. I feel like, you can't knock the fact that when Tiffany brought out those chessboards, she was talking to Claire. Claire was giving actual real dialogue. They were working together and collaborating on a lot of these ideas together. I think the only reason why Claire wasn't brought in fully to everything Tiffany was doing is because of the cookout. If the cookout structure did not exist, I feel like Claire would have brought her in tenfold, Claire would have known as much as Tiffany did, and I think Claire would have been able to set her path up even more. You have to realize when jury hit, the game board was completely taken away. Claire and DX are having these conversations about, we have no idea what the hell is going on. I feel like without a Secret Alliance being there, running them down, Claire honestly could have, enacted a path for her because she already had. She was like, honestly, if I kind of just hide behind Tiffany and cut her towards the end, like that was a path for her. So I feel like you really can't knock her. And I do feel like in a non-cookout season where there isn't a Secret Alliance, that she really could make it pretty far. I think the negative thing I will say is the comp wins, but I feel like she had the social ability. A lot of people did like Claire, and it wasn't necessarily only because of they liked Tiffany. I think Claire had a lot of her separate connections on her own. So I'm gonna give my sister a 6. Take it or leave it, babe.
Period. Honestly, coming into this, I didn't know how I felt about Claire. But I will say, I agree with a lot of things that Lee said, because honestly, it's a lot of revisionist history. Just in general, it's hard to remember everything that goes on. But when you really think about it, at the beginning of the game, like Lee said, Claire was right there with Tiffany when it comes to strategy. Not just like, it's different. And I think it's hard for people to see because Claire does not necessarily go out of her way to go talk to DX and convince him to do this. She's not that type of strategist, but she is a strategist. Claire comes up with strategy. So when she's talking to Tiffany, they come up together with what they need to do as a group. Like Lee said, they collaborate. And then Tiffany goes out and enacts it. And I think people kind of just fully dismiss people who have strategy if they don't act on it. And I feel like that's not necessarily fair because Claire does have strategy and she does have the gumption to think of things. I keep using that word. To think of things and to think of a strategy and to think of a plan and to think of a way to go. And I do think a part of her issue why I won't go higher than a 6 on Claire is because she does not actively make those moves. Even when it comes down to when we're late in the game and she takes over Tiffany's HOH, I feel like that was the time for her to go ahead and put up Xavier and Big D and take out Xavier. And she did not do that because she was too focused on, being loyal to Tiffany and sticking with this and sticking with this plan. And she also just has a lack of, I feel, agency when it comes to making moves. And it sucks because Claire knows that's important. She talks about it all the time. She knows what she needs to do. She knows this game very well. And I think she's a smart player. I think if Claire were to come back, Claire could do wonderfully. I think Claire did wonderfully this game. Like you said, and like we keep talking about, if the cookout was not a thing, Claire really could have been in the game. And if she slips up and win the competition, slips up, takes out the right person, she could make it to at least final 2. She could win the votes.
And she had the social game to
she
win
did have
the
a
votes.
good social game. So I do think Claire has a lot of good qualities that people try to knock and people try to like forget or with the woo, but we don't forget over here at the Reality Kingdom. So it's 6 for Elmo. Elmo is me. Queen Mother Alyssa. Now, first of all, I love Alyssa just in general, like just bring her to the general scheme. And I just love Alyssa. She fine down. I love her just energy in general. I'm so excited. Check her out on CBS The Challenge USA. But when it comes to the game, I also think Alyssa is one of the better players of the people not in the cookout, to be honest. I think there's a reason Alyssa made it as far as she did. And one thing that I want to talk about and I really like about Alyssa's game that I feel like people don't really talk about is the hold that this girl be having on some of these people because the way, girl.
She had these men ready to fight for her early in the season. When I tell you that Alyssa was the talk of the town, okay?
Girl, that's that pussy mouth. The way she had Christian and Xavier ready to jump out the window for her.
Brent was around here going crazy thinking about Alyssa.
Y'all, Alyssa, something about her, and that's the thing, it's not actually her pussy, she's not throwing her pussy around, but something about her socially, something about her game, something about the way she talks to these people, it makes people really want to work with her, and that's very beneficial because it brought her as far as she did. The reason Alyssa was the last member of the cookout was because Xavier was ready to kill himself when she got evicted. Like, Xavier was ready to
turn against the entire cookout. To say Alyssa, baby, they was right here thinking about. What if I just win veto and use it? What if I just,
the way Alyssa alone decided the damn near the eviction order of the cookout because Xavier got so mad that Tiffany, Alyssa got that power, y'all. I don't know what to tell y'all.
What I love about Alyssa, because usually I feel like when we watch showmances, a lot of the times, they don't do nothing. They just sit and kiss and do what they gotta do in the have not room. No, Miss Alyssa was out here working. She was making Final Fours with the girls. She had a Final Four with Claire and Tiffany. She had a Final Four with DX and Hannah. She didn't even like DX and Hannah, but she was playing the game. Even in jury, after knowing that she had not been that cool with Hannah still. Like, they made the Final Four and it really didn't go nowhere because Kristen got out. Derek got a Christian, but even in jury, she still went to Hannah and say, hey, let's make a final two. Like, let's try to do this. Like, I love a player that's going to go out there and do things to get themselves far in the game. Like, I feel like Alyssa had a lot of things stacked up against her due to the cookout, and she was still trying. Like, when it came to the campaigning, all of these people, but specifically Alyssa, she came with a stacked campaign. Like, well, you can get the votes because of this, this, and this. Like, it was giving PowerPoint presentation. It was coming from different areas. Like, what I love about her in general is just like she has a great understanding of the game, and I feel like a lot of people look at her and probably underestimate her or have this opinion about her. But Alyssa really is just like, I was like, she's just this cool bitch. Like, she's really just here, like, chilling. Like, she's not too much worried about the girls. And even still working the house socially. Like, no one was really, like, her name kept coming up. But who's putting Alyssa up?
Mm-hmm. No one was really going to do it.
Like, literally, like, she was one of the safest people in the house. And not even because of the cookout. Like, it was on her own accord. Prior to the cookout becoming, you know, the main alliance when jury hit, she was essentially running the house with her man in the royal flush. Like, she got in the slaughterhouse. She got in the royal flush. If she was black, she would have been in the cookout. So, you know, Alyssa really is hashtag that girl when you think about it. And I feel like she's one of the people who honestly could have come back and do really, really well. I'm gonna keep it at a 6 for Alyssa because I feel like the competition ability, I think DX is a little bit higher, which is why he got the 7, even with the cookout hindering him. With Alyssa, I do think there were some times, you know, where she wasn't always aware of the things that was going on, but a lot that had to do with it being a secret alliance there. So I'm not going to knock it too much. So it's going to be a 6.
Yeah, I'm a little higher on Alyssa. I'll give her a 6.5. I do agree about the thing with Derek X. Like, Derek X is amazing at competition. That really brings him up. Alyssa is good at competition, so that's why I'll put her at like a 6.5. I also feel like Alyssa has a lot of moments where it's hard to not consider her one of the topper, you know, the upper players, because even when it goes back to week 1, when she was the target, she got all the way nominated. It's different. Frenchie targeted a lot of people. He didn't nominate all the people. He nominated Alyssa, and Alyssa convinced Frenchie to literally divert from that whole path and invite her into an alliance. Now it's Frenchie, so it's like, okay. But even later on in the season, she had Brent Snow. Brent thought Alyssa was her closest ally. Even later on in the season, when Christian won HOH, Alyssa won HOH. That's the thing. Like, she had a lot of control. And even when it comes down to, like, Alyssa didn't have that strong of a originally. Tiffany's bond was more through Christian, but when Alyssa and Tiffany started working together, their bond got very, very strong. Alyssa had a wonderful bond with Azah. She had a great bond with Big D. Alyssa had some of the strongest bonds with, like, I feel like the entire house that I feel like no one else really had other than like a Tiffany. It was like she really had shit all over the place. She was very much so covered, and I feel like in another season she really could damn near win and do good. And she was able to win comps, and that's such a plus for me. So I'm gonna keep her at the 6.5 and leave it there. Ciao.
Let's get to the mother, Queen Mother. Now, if you've seen our other videos, you already know that. I mean, at this point, we're beating the dead horse. Tiffany Queen Mother Mitchell ran Big Brother 23. As we all know, every elimination up until hers, she ran. Including hers.
And Hannah's. And Kyland. She ran the whole season. She chose the winner. She did the entire eviction order. Honestly, she made the rankings. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's that girl. Tiffany won division Maximoff Mitchell Geesley. Ran this season, and it was so great because, you know, I feel like she was really the underdog coming in. Like, you know, you usually see like they usually get like, because usually when they cast like the black contestants, they usually do 1 or 2. Then they not that physically fit. They not that strategically into the game. And the earlier interviews, we didn't get nothing from Tiffany because we had barely any interviews. So we just thinking, well, Tiffany is a single mom.
She's a CEO, and that's all we know. And she a Leo. That's all we know.
And she a phlebotomist.
She's a phlebotomist. And she goes in that house and literally dominates from day one. I think one of her shining moments, one of her many shining moments was in week 2. In week 2, when Kyland wins HOH, and she literally just takes over the entire game from there, because as we all know, Frenchie had week 1. He created the slaughterhouse. Miss Mama's Tiffany was not in it. And once it, shattered within a week after Kyland went in HOH, Tiffany basically went up to him and was like, we need more than what Frenchie is giving us. We need to do our own group. She pulled in the Kings. She pulled in the X and had her own power structure. She had a separate thing with Kyland, Claire, and the X called the Detectives. She had brought in Hannah. She was still working with Azah and Big D through the cookout. She had Britini on her side. The girls were scared for Tiffany, and I was too. I'm not going to lie. Because a lot of times we see in this game a player like Tiffany, like, ooh, it get nervous because this amount of control we never see from a woman or a black woman at that. Usually we see our sisters down in the dumps getting ran over. So a lot of us were scared watching her literally juggle everybody, and she did it flawlessly. Then we get to week 4 when she decides that she wants to go with the cookout against her better judgment because, Tiffany Maximoff Mitchell, she knows, she can see the future. She knew she wasn't going to win, go to the cookout, but she said, you know what? She looked at the camera and she's like, y'all niggas want it, so I'm going to give it to y'all. Because she knew she couldn't go win when going to the end. And I feel like, honestly, like, that just shows her selflessness as a person and as a player in this game, the loyalty, the international implications that have, because she knew way back in week 4 that she was not going to win this game going to the end with the 6, and she still did it. She switched her game up to where all of her strategic moves were going for the 6. They got to the 6, they played in my sister's face and got her out, but she won fan favorite, and she's the queen mother of the season. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you.
There's nothing else to tell you. Honestly, truly, you said it perfectly. You said it great. And I just want to say the girls try to play in Tiffany's face. They try to be like, well, socially, she had arguments and let's get it perfectly clear.
Perfectly clear.
Tiffany's social game was the best I ever seen in Big Brother history. She had these bitches locked. The way, even if Big D had the gumption to try to get her out, it was never going to happen. Like, no one was evicting Tiffany.
Let's be realistic.
Let's be
real. The only people you this season you can say she did not have a good relationship with at some point would honestly be Big D.
And that's
in general, the people who wanted to get her out, Xavier, Big D, they would have been gone if she didn't have to go stand with cookout. They would have been gone at pre-jury. Like, these are things that she would have got taken care of. You think mamas would have let them get to the end knowing they wanted to get her out? You think she's dumb? You think she's not mother?
Child, no, because they be trying to play in my girl Tiffany plays, and it's giving y'all are haters, y'all are mad with the woo. Also, shout out to Tiffany. Shout out to Tiffany.
A real one.
Shit. A real one. But nah, honestly, y'all was playing the Tiffany plays. I don't know why. I'm going to go ahead and give her
a 9.
And honestly, it's not even an exaggeration.
It's not an exaggeration.
We're being real, boo.
I want to say this right now. She's a 9. And if you're mad about it, you're either racist or stupid.
You got 2 options, boo. Pick one. I fear. Shit, that's that on that. And honestly, I'm gonna be real. If you really gonna lie to yourself and like try to concoct a reason why Tiffany's not the girl, why she's not the best player this season, why she's not one of the best players ever, why she's not one of the greatest, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know what to tell someone who's gonna lie to themselves. A lot of the times I see on Twitter, I see on Instagram, the girls try to lie. They really try to dig deep in their gut. Well, she's not a good player because she won the HOH when Xavier didn't want her to, and she's not a good player because she made Big D mad. And y'all know the goal, and y'all know the goal was to get to 6 to the 6. You think Tiffany would have went to the end with these people who don't like her and these people who can win all these times?
Like, be realistic. That's such a dumb argument to use.
Be for real.
Doesn't make any sense.
Be for real. At
the end of the day, any week, if she decided a person was going, they would have went. As
evidenced by Frenchie, Brent, Whitney. She allowed Christian to go. SB!
Wow.
Claire! She was the HOH! Alyssa! She made the plan! Herself! She chose to win HOH. Hannah! She had that girl on lock! Like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell
she had on lock. Like, literally.
The entire season is the evidence. Are we really gonna see her? I don't know if y'all just watched the episodes and the episodes didn't. Really
they gotta be what it is because you definitely didn't watch the feeds. You didn't see this woman working 24/7. I've never seen someone be able to have a relationship with literally almost every damn player in the game and then maintain that relationship throughout. It was insane. It was nasty. Honestly, it wasn't fair. How good of a player she is. Mother.
Anyways, Tiffany's literally one of the best players ever. I say she's better than Dan. Oh! I say a lot of things. I really think Tiffany's the best player I've ever seen. Honestly, I know I gave her a 9, but I would only give the other girls an 8. So,
anyways,
on to Hannah. First of all, Hannah's that girl. Clearly, we see that. I think Hannah has such amazing qualities when it comes to this game. She's so intelligent, and you can really see that in her game. Throughout the game, she really had a lot of moments that really stood out. First of all, the week where she was nominated against Whitney, she saved herself. Lee can dive more into that because I'm not going to do it. Moving along. I like how throughout the jury, she had a very important role in taking out the +1s of the cookout. When it comes to strategizing that second twist, which I forgot what it was called, she was a lot of the reason why she convinced Derek X to waste his things, waste his coins. She convinced Claire. She created the plan to get Claire to play and be the HOH and make her do what they wanted to do. She ended up being she's the reason Alyssa went home. She's kind of part of the reason Claire went home. And Sarah Beth. She had that whole chunk of the jury. A lot of that was because of Hannah's strategic implementation. When it comes to getting them out, a lot of the cookout members didn't necessarily put in too much effort because, the plan was set in motion. It was going to happen regardless. But Hannah went out of her way to really create strategies to really convince these people. Mind you, these are people she's working with. She's working closely with all of these people, and she's still going out of her way to really put in strategy, put in effort to get these people out. She has so many good qualities because she's able to strategize and be cutthroat and turn off her emotions. Try to turn off her emotions because she was sad. When she gets these people out, she's so cutthroat, and I think that's what makes her such a good player, honestly. Even when it came down to getting to the end, she set herself very well within the cookout. Kyland didn't necessarily, no one was really after her. The only connection she had lacking in the cookout was with Azah, but that really didn't have much to do with her own fault. Even when it came to creating these final threes, she had a final 3 with Tiffany and Xavier. She had a final 3 with Tiffany and Kyland. She was Xavier's little brother. She had a great relationship with Big D. Even Azah and Tiffany and her were trying to create something, and it just shows that she has the caliber to position herself within this like that. Her and Xavier were damn near a final 2, while she had a final 2 with Tiffany. Hannah was really well positioned, and it just kind of got messed up by her loyalty to Tiffany. But other than that, she did everything that she needed to do, honestly. Like, what you think?
I agree with everything you're saying. Like you said, I'm going to deep dive into it. The week of Christian, where the target was placed on her. And it was looking like they was Loki about to drop my sister altogether. She went in, had one conversation, changed his mind like that. He was not thinking about putting her back up. That's work that she did socially. I think she had a lot of people on her side. There were a lot of angles that she was working. And I feel like even with going to the end with the cookout, I think all of the women in general specifically were kind of in a bad position with that because Xavier and Kyland were these comp beasts, But I feel like she was one of the few who still had a path to win. If she wins that double eviction HOH or that veto, she probably could win her way to the final because the next 3 competitions were all mental. Like, she still had a pathway to win. She had people in the jury fighting for her, I'm going to say it's a 7 for my sister Hannah, honestly. Very underrated player. And I feel like a lot of the reasons why she got so much, backlash earlier in the season is because of the age thing, which is such bullshit. The idea that she can't be brought in because she's too young and naive and things like that. That's something that's actually going to be a problem when she comes back when she's probably 25, 26, 27, more mature, more life experiences. This is someone that could potentially come in and I feel like dominate the game like Tiffany type shit. Like it's giving Prodigy down for real. And I feel like you really have to put some respect on her. The fact that she was one of the only people who, like I said, saves herself. Because the cookout tried that week. Kyland tried. Tiffany tried. Xavier tried. All shot down by Sarah Beth. Even DX and Azah went up there together with the Jokers and were like, we want Whitney out to protect Hannah. And none of it worked. Hannah had to save herself, her damn self. And I have to put respect on that. One of the only members in the cookout to do so. So, point blank, period. Mother Hannah's a 7.
Period. I feel like I think I agree. I'm gonna give her a 7, and I feel like the reason I can't go a little bit higher on Hannah is because she is a threat. It's weird because usually a 21-year-old girl, you know, she's young. Usually they wouldn't be a threat, but Hannah's intelligence just precedes her. It's just out in the open. Everyone sees it. Everyone knows she's so smart, and she kind of talks about how smart she is, or she like shows her intelligence a lot, and I feel like that's a fault in her game. And that's what got her targeted in the first place. That's what made Sarah Beth go hard in the paint to try to get her out. But we see how that went.
Mm-hmm.
but Hannah does have a tendency to be a target. I see people wanting to target her, and I feel like that's an issue, and that's something that could mess her up in like other games if she ever plays again. And even in this game, it kind of messed her up a little bit. So I feel like that's a reason to bring her down. She also is a little younger. It's not a big. Hannah's so mature, so it's really not a big downfall. But because other people know she's younger, they perceive her as not a worthy ally or not someone we can bring in fully. Exactly. And so it messes her up. It's nothing on her end. It's just her age was just a downfall.
Ageism.
Ageism, literally. So it just has to be a 7, but that's still a good score.
Nah.
On
Daddy Kyland.
First of all, I would like to say I'm looking a little rough.
Oh my
God. Kyland. What's up? I can get a little more mask for you. I don't know what you're into. Whatever you're into, definitely DM me. My @ is @BBFaro on Twitter.
You
definitely.
are a man.
That doesn't mean much. So with that being said, Kyland, you definitely can slide in my DMs. Like I said, I can get a little mask for you. I can do whatever you need to do, but I'm single.
He does not want you, babe. It's okay.
You don't know that.
He's with Mother Tiffany.
She can join.
Anyways.
I
feel like I'll go ahead and start with Kyland because I feel like, because I want to say this. I feel like without what happens towards the end of the game, we all know about the child. Kyland would 100% be an 8, maybe even a 9, because I feel like when you really go deep dive into Kyland's game, it was really impressive. I mean, the fact that he was nominated week 1 and still gained so much control after was just insane. Like Farrell mentioned earlier, like DX wanted to use that veto on Kyland so much, and DX mentioned it's because he knew Kyland had pull in the house. He knew Kyland had a relationship, and he realized that if Travis or Kyland has to go, I'd rather Kyland stay because Kyland can help me better and move further in the game. And that's work because Kyland had put in. He was brought into the slaughterhouse, even though Frenchie is insane, put him up anyway. He was still brought in. And then even though Tiffany was the one who kind of helped create the Royal Flush, it was still in a better position for him, which allowed him to still be in a better power position. The amount of control he was able to have with the partnership with Sarah Beth, to the fact that she started off her week of HOH saying, I'm not going to let Kyland do it to control me, and to then put up the exact same nominations as Kyland. I mean, you know, competition ability-wise, he won so many. Like, even if people didn't like him, he was forced to have control because, I mean, what else were you going to do about it? I feel like the negatives about his game really come from the fact that he was doing a lot to help the cookout. A lot of the moves he were making was because he knew that the people who were not in the cookout were not going to be the end game. They weren't people that he necessarily needed to work on. And I feel like that was really a downfall for him because he really had no chance of winning when it came towards the end, I feel, because of the work he put in for the cookout, which made the other players dislike him so much. But I feel like taking that out of the picture as an overall player, I think I have to give him a 7 because of the end game he had, the wanting to go to the end with the best player and not even picking the right one. Like, at least if he had picked Tiffany, I'd be okay with it. But the fact that he picked the wrong one really makes you say, and it sucks because if Kyland didn't do that, I just wish he didn't have that thinking at all. If he went in straight up like, fuck who the best player, I'm the best player, I'm sitting next to me because I'm going to win, and he just dominated that in-game. Kyland, honestly, I think, to the kind of speech to potentially win. I don't know how the votes would have really helped out because the girls was not liking my man at all. But, you know, I feel like that really shouldn't take too much out of him as a player because even like the players outside of it, the players inside of it as well was affected by the cookout structure. Kyland was not able to play the game that he had wanted to play. And I feel like if he did, he would have made better decisions to help him and not a group. But I do have to leave that at 7 for that in-game child. I don't know what you was thinking, Sister Kyland.
My sister. I agree with a lot that you said. Honestly, I do feel like Kyland. Oh, that in game. We're not gonna talk about it. I feel like I want to give Kyland like an 8.5. I want to give him an 8. I want to say that he's like, really, really up there. But like you said, that in game really like loses it for me. But the positives about Kyland game is that he does have this energy about him that is so charming. That's really the only word you can use. Kyland has this charm to him. It's like a mist. He has his own little mist. And it really gets the people really wanting to work with him. It's weird because not everyone wants to work with Kyland, but the people who do, they can't let go, boo. He had Tiffany damn near on her knees, girl. He had DX damn near on his knees. He had Sarah Beth literally on her knees. Like, the girls were literally like, the girls who like Kyland,
I was on my knees.
I was on my knees. I will get on my knees. Pick me up. I don't know. But no, literally, like, Kyland has the girls, I don't know, just bent out of shape. It was weird. Like, have you ever seen, like, in real life, it's like you in high school and it's this one guy, and, it's the it guy. It's the guy that everybody just want to suck their dick. Like, that's what Kyland gives. And no homo. But that's what Kyland gives, definitely. And I just feel like that part of him really pulls him up as a player because not everyone has that quality to where they can have people so loyal. It's like, it just makes me tingle a little bit. So I do feel like that brings him up a lot as a player. I also feel like just strategically, he's very smart. Even without Tiffany there, Kyland did have the knowledge to know that he needed to use his HOH to build something. He was going to do something regardless if Tiffany was there or not. It wasn't just Tiffany. He was going to build something. He was getting Frenchie out, and he was going to decide to either stick with Slaughterhouse or make something else or whatever. He was going to make something happen. And it's to the point where he literally thinks outside of the house that he's the one who brought Derek X into to the Royal Flush and stuff, because he was probably thinking these things. That's the thing. Kyland is clearly smart. He did put a lot of the work in getting a lot of the people out. Similar to Hannah and Tiffany, he put a lot of the work in when it comes to helping the cookout get to the end, because he was actively like trying to strategize to make Sarah Beth take out Derek X, even though Derek X is one of his closest allies, to help get out Sarah Beth, honestly. He was helping these people go home. He was winning the HOHs. So I really do feel like Kyland has a lot of great qualities. And I feel like in general, he's just a really good player. But then you get to the end of the game and it's like, I don't know what this backwards thinking was. Like, that is so crazy. And he still thinks it. Like, no shade, hit me up. But he still thinks it. Like,
no,
I don't know.
I really hope if he comes back, he does not have to stick with that thinking, because honestly, like, we all know Tiffany ran this season, but like, if she had any competition ever, it was Kyland. It was. He had the potential to, and some weeks he did just completely take control from her, almost like take the reins. Like, she was never down and out. Trust me, babe. She was always, she'd be in the passenger seat. Don't worry, watching very closely, but she was on the wheel, and like that was because Kyland put in a lot of work, a lot of heavy work, especially in this end game, because Tiffany had put in so much work to get to the 6 that it kind of really fell apart for her at the 6, and he had a potential still to win, making a deal with Azah to make sure when she won that next HOH at Final 5, she would not target him, and she stuck to that. That got him to Final 4, and it could have got him to Final 2 if he didn't flop in the Final 4 competition. So it's crazy because even with those mistakes he made at the end, he still had a chance to potentially get to the Final 2, but the win equity, I mean, because if he did get to the Final 2, he probably would be next to Xavier, because that's what he wanted, and he would have lost to Xavier, even if he brought him.
Yeah, I want to give him an 8.5, but I just can't consider that in game, so I'm just gonna give him a 7.5. And
generous queen, ask Miss Ellen.
And I will leave it there. Azah is my girl. You can talk about Azah.
The big 3. So yes, like I said, all the 6. Like, if y'all want to hear us go into detail about them, watch the videos, child. We got 2. But Azah, we've spoken about. great social game. I feel like a lot of people try to knock her as an emotional player, but we've already discussed the reason why she had those emotions is because before anyone in the cookout had even decided they wanted to go to the cookout, Azah knew at the beginning what it was. And she had to lose her partners in her relationships way earlier than anyone else. So that did cause her to become upset. And as any human would, she reacted to do so. And she had every right to do so. But overall, as a player, Azah was really set up well in the game. I mean, from Kyland's HOH up, who was putting her up? I mean,
Whitney.
Christian considered it for 5 seconds, but he wasn't going to do that for real. And even if Christian did put her up, who's voting her out? Like, y'all really have to think about it. Like, Azah was the last nominated for a reason, and I do feel like she still had a chance to win. You know, I think her decision to choose Xavier at the end, that had a lot to do with the outside, you know, representation of a Black winner and what it means and all these other things. But in a season where that representation isn't needed, she doesn't have to sacrifice her game for a Black winner. I do think Azah could have been a really great winner. She would have cut Big D, and she would have cut Xavier and took Big D and potentially have won. That's one competition away from winning the game. And it would have been based on the work that she had done. They loved Azah. That entire jury was like raving over her. Like, and that's because she sat and made those connections with them. Even while playing like she was in the minority for the cookout to be the secret alliance, she still went out and had these bonds with the fact that they just did not want to get her. Like they didn't want to put her on at all. Like she was not nominated while being in the fake minority. So it's a 6.5 for me for Azah. I feel like, honestly, it could be a 7 or even an 8 if she was able to play that game she wanted to play. It's crazy because I feel like a lot of people, you know, her favorite player is June. And a lot of people say, like, oh, well, she didn't play like June, even if she says it. But I feel like, to me, she did kind of play like June. Because when it got to jury, like, she did, like, it wasn't the real structure, but the fake structure of the game, it kind of was a split. Without a cookout structure, it would have been a split between kind of Xavier's side and Tiffany and Kyland. Or that's the thing, Kyland could have had his own side. But either way, Azah was so set up well in between all three or two sides, you know? So you gotta put some respect on it. She was really eating that game up with the cards she had to play.
Period. And I fully agree with what you're saying. And like he said, like Lee said, if you want to hear more about all the members of the cookout, you can watch our other 2 videos where we talk about them or whatever. But when it comes to Azah, like, I genuinely think that her social game is very, very amazing. Like you said, she was the last person nominated, even being in a minority position within the game. And that's amazing. That's hard to do. But it's the fact that her social game, not only is her social game good, it's strong. You know, you can have relationships with everyone like Alyssa, but it's different from having relationships with them and them never wanting to even nominate you. These people, everyone in the game from Britini, the entire jury segment of the game was never wanting to nominate Azah. Azah didn't get nominated until there was no other choice but to nominate her. She was literally safe the entire time, and that's from her own social game. I think it's hard to see social game through the TV, and I'll talk about this in the other video, but it's hard to see social game. You have to be in there with her. And being in there, the people who were in the house with her love Azah. They know they weren't going to nominate Azah. They wasn't going to touch Azah, and Azah was never getting evicted. And I feel like social game is something that I really, really value. And I love social players like Bailey, Brittany Haynes, these people who are fully social. And they're always misunderstood, I feel like, as players, unless you see some strategy here and there. And you don't have to be this evil mastermind, or not even evil, but you don't have to be a mastermind, and you don't have to be a puppeteer. You don't have to do all these things to play good. Azah did have a plan for if the cookout did not go through. She had a plan to play the middle. She literally spoke to Tiffany about how maybe they could make an alliance. She was going to go to Xavier. She had Xavier in her good graces because, as you see, Xavier wanted Azah at the end in the final 3. So it's like, clearly Azah had strategic chops. She just didn't necessarily feel like using them because she didn't have to use them. Yeah. And I feel like in another season, if we saw Azah in a different setting, then we could actually see Azah put in a little bit more work. And that's the thing. All Azah has to do is put in 2 inches of more work, and she wins the game. As you see, she's in final 3 this season. So I really feel like Azah is just misunderstood.
Damn near unnominated.
Damn near unnominated, winning the season. Like, no votes to evict, unnominated, woo, like all your faves. She's doing better than your faves. I don't know what to tell you. So I really feel like the girls just really misunderstand her. And I agree with the 6.5. I'll go ahead and give her that. And honestly, the issue with Azah and Big D, and I'll just go ahead and talk about it, is that because we're playing in the season where they had to be in this fake minority, which we talked about more in the other videos, they weren't actually in minority. As you see, they're in the final 3. They were not actually being targeted. When they say the jokers were targeted, babe, they mean Frenchie and Britini. And that's it. It was never going to be Azah. It was never going to be Big D. But they had to play the position of the cookout that they were put in this fake mastermind Westview world, babe. So they had to play that game up. They had to play it up. They had to pretend, pretend. So I feel like because of that, we didn't get to see their full potential. We didn't get to see Azah's 7.5, which he could likely be 8. We didn't get to see Big D, who he could be a 7.5. He could be an 8. We didn't get to see it. So, but based off what we saw, I have to give Azah 6.5, but I want to give her higher. But just based off what we saw, based off how the season went, I'm going to just give her a 6.5.
Yeah. And I think that definitely extends to Big D. Shout out to Big D. Big D been supporting the whole cookout. We love them down. Tiffany, Hannah, Azah, Xavier, Daddy, Kyland, all of them. But Big D, he already, nigga, for real. I like Big D a lot, and I feel like we've definitely talked about it before. Like, Big D's game is very underestimated because of the respect thing within the game itself. And I feel like that also is particular to this season. So I do think based off of that, I have to give my sister a 6. No shade, Big D. But it's really because when you really look, I think it really just comes down to the competitions for him, honestly. Like, I feel like I gave the X 7 a higher score. You gave Alyssa a score because the competition ability, sadly, it does matter because they literally make the competitions so hard now for no reason at all. And if you're not able to win them, then you will end up in a position where people are not going to respect you as much. But we've talked about it. I think DX, not DX. I think Big D had a good knowledge of the game. He understood that the 6 needed to do what they needed to do to get to the end. While in minority, he was still making moves to get him further. The reason why, honestly, Xavier is a winner is because of the alliance that Big D brought together. But with Xavier and Kyland, he made that final 3. And that final 3 was in his best interest. He kept Azah from working with the girls. He was one of the reasons why Tiffany was the first out of the 6. So I do feel like you have to put some respect on his game as a player. The only reason why I can't say he's a 7 or 8, in my opinion, is because of the competition ability. If he was the one to take out Tiffany, which he could have because he was so close to winning that competition, I would have been constantly up here, right up there with the rest of the girls. But because of that, it really brought his respect level down, and that sucks. If he comes back, hopefully the competitions are just more equitable. But also, I think that's something he would need to work on going into Big Brother, making people realize that he's not just, someone that you can disregard. And we have to mention that, like Pharaoh said, they were in a fake minority. So the people like Sarah, Beth, Alyssa, Claire, they're looking at Big D as some floater who's doing nothing when he's literally in the majority alliance. You know what I mean? So that perception was based off a role that he needed to play. So it's a lot that goes into it, but I do have to settle for the 6 because the competition ability. But that's not even on him. That's on the game itself, which we've discussed.
Yeah, and let's really get into it a little bit because, like, when we talk about the competitions, I literally remember tweeting during the season. I tweeted and I was like, do y'all feel like the competitions are fair? And a lot of people, I want to say 70% of people say yes, they are. And that really shocked me because that means clearly the producers think it's fair too. And it's not. The competitions are very unfair. They're very unequal. If you are not a slender, taller man like Derek X, like Xavier, if you are not in this category, this elite category, if you're not Kyland, Derek X, or Xavier, or Christian, then literally the comps are made for you. The comps were basically made for 4 people in the season, and they won all the comps. And it's like, that's just not fair when it comes to anything. If you're a woman, if you're just not like hella fit, they are literally doing CrossFit and shit outside of the house. Like, these people are doing
backflip
burpees. Like you have to be at the elite. Like, literally, when you look at BB20, Casey and Fessy are winning all the comps because they're literally professional football players. Cody Calafiore in BB21 is a professional soccer player. They have professional players who are able to win these competitions. You have to be literally out here doing CrossFit, like I said, at the gym 24/7, 25/8. And who gonna do all of that? Not me. And so it's like the competitions are really not equal. And if it's not that, it's a random mental competition that don't come and it's only coming rarely. And that's just not fair. So because of that, people who don't win comps aren't seen as are seen as respectful. We talked about it with Britini. Like I said, I feel like Britini didn't get an ounce of respect until she won that veto, and she still didn't get enough because it was just one veto. You got to win an HOH. You can't just win a veto. You got to win 2 HOHs with the woo. You don't get the respect that you deserve. Even within the cookout, the boys at the end, we're talking about Kyland and Xavier were walking around saying, yeah, I just feel like Hannah and Tiffany and Azah, they haven't really done nothing for the cookout because they haven't won a comp. You don't get the respect until you win a competition in this game. And winning a competition is hard if you're a woman or if you're not literally a god looking fine down like Kyland and Xavier or DX. I feel like you really got to be up there. Like, I don't think I can win all of them competitions. And it's like, that's just not fair. And I feel like that's really what it comes down to. But like we said, the same thing with Azah. The same thing with all the people not in the cookout. We're basing it on what happened during the season. So it's hard to give these people higher ratings, you know? So I'm just going to have to give Big D a 6 and move along. Unfortunately. And that's the thing. And it's in the comps have never been, the comps have been like this for so long. So it's like when it comes to competitions, I do value that. That's why I mentioned it with Brent. That's why I mentioned it with Alyssa. It's like, it's annoying, but if you're able to win those comps, you literally get an extra point for me, you know? So
and then like we're not even, and then I know some girls are probably like, he should be a 3, he should be a 1. Stop listening to white
people. I ain't been saying that.
It's not like, that's delusional. When you have people like the Joeys and the Pow Pows and the Glens, and there are some really bad people who have won this game. We're not going to sit here and say this man's a 1.
Period. And if you want to get into it, you can watch the other videos, boo. Xavier. Congratulations on winning, sis. I think Xavier is a great player in general. I do think he has a lot of just natural abilities, and that's one thing that brings you very far in this game. We've seen it last year with Cody, the winner. We've seen it in BB Canada. A lot of the winners just have something natural about them, a natural leadership, a natural winner energy, and I think Xavier has that. And that's what brings him up already as a player. He's great at competitions, and that's something, like we said, it matters, unfortunately. He's great at competitions. He's good socially. A lot of people like him. A lot of people want to work with him. They bring him into alliances. So I really feel like Xavier has a lot of good qualities. However, I do feel like Xavier has a lack of strategic implementation, kind of similar to Claire. I kind of would say similar to what I said about Claire. Like, he's strategic and he clearly thinks about it and he clearly can plan. But when it comes to going out and enacting it, I think he's just not necessarily the best at that. We saw it with Hannah's week. He tried to, first of all, he's the reason that Hannah got nominated low key in the first place, because he tried to get the target off of other people, which worked, but it got it on Hannah. He couldn't get the target off of Hannah. And then later throughout the season, we see that Xavier doesn't really drive the force of the cookout. When it came to that jury segment of the cookout dominating, a lot of those weeks, Xavier was just the one they used as the nominee. And, you know, and it's like being the person being nominated, he got nominated, 5-6 times. It's like, I feel like those qualities show that Xavier was not necessarily in a power position the way that we would hope that he could be. And I feel like even hearing that Derek X kind of wanted to target him, Sarah Beth kind of wanted to target him, these people were actually kind of targeting him. Similar to Hannah, Xavier has a natural threat to him. Even though he's in there pretending to be a bartender, people are just naturally threatened by Xavier. They know he can win. They know he has great potential. So people want to target him. And I feel like a lot of those qualities do bring him down as a player. I also feel like I said, because he wasn't necessarily driving the eviction order at the end, it kind of brings me down on him. But I do like that he was very self-interested. Xavier always wanted Alyssa to be the last one. And who was the last one? Her. Yeah. Xavier did put in work in being the most self-interested and setting himself up within the cookout. And I think those are all great qualities.
Yeah. Like, I think he speaks about it in his in-game speech. When you think about, like, kind of the game, like, you know, the team aspect, you know, the Kings got pretty far. When it comes to the cookout, he was the best setup for the cookout. And you can't honestly, like, Kyland kind of went into detail about it. Like, he kind of called it unearned, like, ability a little bit. And it's like, I mean, but he got it. The girls that got it. And he got it, point blank, period. Mm-hmm. You know, he has this kind of a control factor. And I think that does have to do with the type of person he is. You know, he's a very cool, calm, and collected guy. I feel like he is a leader to a certain extent, or at least he gives that type of energy. And that's kind of the thing that he purposely does. You know what I mean? That's kind of the social game that he wanted to have. And it did work. I think it took a minute for people to warm up to him in the earlier weeks, but once they did, they really did like Xavier. People wanted to work with him. People wanted to pull him in. Like we mentioned, Kyland going, I don't know, berserk at the top 6 and just wanted to be to the end with him because he was the best. Like people saw him as the potential winner in the earlier weeks with him just sitting there. That's not something that's not going to go away. So I do think I want to give him a 7 because of that. Not everyone can have that just overall control. You know what I mean? Like not even necessarily of the game, but just of himself. Like he was very aware of how himself was acting. He knew not to, he didn't want to argue with people. He didn't want to get too loud with people. He didn't want to be in a showman with people. Like these were moves that he did to fix his personality for the game, and it made a lot of people want to be at the end with him. So I do think that is some of his own work, and then he's also a competition beast. I mean, we've mentioned before, I do think, like, if Tiffany decided she didn't want to go to the end with the cookout, I do think Xavier could have become a target, but does he necessarily go home? We don't know if he could have won those competitions, you know? If the cookout structure didn't exist at all, these are the same 16 people, Xavier's not around here throwing competitions for nobody. He's winning because, well, now he can. Maybe he has a bigger power structure. Maybe he makes his own side. We don't really know because all 6 had to take a while there and take their entire game away for the 6. There was no point of Xavier to create alliances because, I mean, the 6 was the 6. The 6 was created. It was done deal. You know what I mean? So I do have to give him a 7 off that alone. I do feel like he could come back and definitely win again, like in the All-Stars or something like that. So gotta put some respect on it.
Period. And I really do think that between Xavier and Big D, they were the best at positioning themselves within the alliance that was the in-game alliance. And I do feel like that just shows that they are this a good caliber of player. I feel like Xavier positioned himself so well. It's why he made it to the end, why he made it to the final 2, why he won the game. So I do feel like I agree, and I'm going to go ahead and give him that 7 also.
All right.
Period. And let me go ahead and put them in order, child. We are done. Oh my God. I'm struggling, y'all. Truth is outside. All right, boom. Here is our order. Here is the entire cast in order from what we rated the best to what we rated the least best. We see Frenchie is at the bottom as he should be per. It's looking real cute, I fear. I don't know what to tell you.
Honestly, it's giving accurate down, I think.
Period. As always.
This is accurate. I feel like this is really accurate. I like this.
As per, as you see, Queen Tiffany, Queen Mother Tiffany is at the top, tippity top as she did because she ran the entire season. And you see it just goes down left to right per. Girl, the right got a lot of the first 8 versus the last 8, y'all. We didn't do it on purpose, I fear. It's just the way the cookie crumbles.
That was not on purpose, y'all.
Not our bias showing. Anyways, I really feel like this is accurate down. If you disagree, you can comment it or whatever. Go ahead and comment, tweet, and share and like and whatever. Check us out.
I feel like the only suggestion people would say is that Big D should be lower, and that's a lie. I'm telling you,
and that's a lie, and I'm not gonna go with it. Anyways, make sure y'all check out the rest of our motherfucking videos. We will be covering Big Brother 24 coming this week, next week, whatever.
No, we got the next. We're doing the cast reaction
soon.
We're doing the cast reaction this week. Oh wait, is this so Big Brother
next week? Next week, we will be covering Big Brother 24. We will be reacting to the cast later this week. Go ahead and check us out or whatever.
Y'all.
And stay tuned. Period.
BB24 is here.
BB24. We will also be covering the Challenge USA or whatever. Stay tuned to us throughout the entire summer. We will be here with y'all, and we can vibe with y'all, and we can chat with y'all. Go ahead and comment, like, share, subscribe, and period. Bye.